Hi, I'm 30, and I thought I was building a life with someone who loved me. For almost 4 years, I've been with my boyfriend, Matt. We met in the most unremarkable way, through mutual friends at a birthday party, but the connection was immediate. He was funny, kind, a little shy, and he had this grounded energy that made me feel safe. Safe enough that, within a year, I moved in with him. We've been living in a rented 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs ever since. It's cozy, nothing fancy, but it's been our space. We painted the walls together, argued about rugs, even adopted a cat we named Bagel. I thought we were in sync, emotionally, financially, even in our long-term plans. Or at least I thought we were. A few months ago, Matt started acting a little different. Nothing huge, just little things. He got more protective over his phone. He started going out alone more often, just errands or meeting my sister. I didn't want to be that girlfriend, so I let it go. But then there was the key. One night, when he was changing after work, a second set of house keys fell out of his jacket pocket. I noticed the unfamiliar keychain first, plain silver, no house number or logo. Not our apartment keys, and definitely not for any office I knew of. I asked about it casually, and he brushed it off. Said it was for the storage unit he shared with his sister. Weird, but plausible. Except his sister lives in a different state, 2 hours away. And we've never used any storage unit. Still, I let it go. Because that's what trust is, right? Until 3 days ago, when his phone lit up while he was in the shower. A text preview from his sister flashed on the screen. I wouldn't have noticed it, but it was long, and said something I couldn't ignore. Just a heads up, the new neighbors saw me coming out of the house again and asked if I lived there. LOL. Think you should start introducing me as your wife instead of your sister. I felt my heart stop. Wife. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't even breathe. I just sat there, stunned, cold sweat running down my back. When Matt came out of the bathroom, I couldn't even look at him. That night, I didn't sleep. I told him I was sick. And while he snored beside me, peaceful as ever, I lay there in the dark wondering, what house? What neighbors? And why the hell is his sister joking about being his wife? I needed answers. But not from him. Not yet. The next morning, I told Matt I had an early meeting and left before him. That was a lie. I had taken the day off. I couldn't focus, couldn't think about anything else. That message from his sister kept flashing in my head like a warning light. I had never met a more chill, disinterested sibling in my life. Matt's sister, Claire, was always cordial to me, but distant. She never visited us. Never invited me anywhere. Never even followed me back on Instagram. But apparently, she and Matt had a house together. One with neighbors. A house he'd never once mentioned. I knew I couldn't ask him directly, not without tipping him off, so I did what I had to. I went through our junk drawer at home and found the key he dropped the other night. He hadn't noticed it was missing. It had no tag, nothing to trace. But I had one more piece of information to go on, his recent Google Maps history. He used our shared laptop last weekend. I remembered because we'd watched a movie together on it. So when I checked the browser's autofill, I found an address. Not far, about a 25-minute drive. It stood out because it was recent. And because I'd never seen it before. I stared at the screen for a long time, debating whether to go. Then I grabbed my keys and left. The neighborhood was upper middle class. Cute lawns. Dog walkers. Kids on bikes. Not the kind of place you casually rent something in, not in this market. When I pulled up to the address, I saw it immediately. A modest 2-story house, navy siding, white shutters. And a red mailbox with the number from the address burned into my brain. I parked a few houses down and waited. The curtains were open. I saw someone moving inside. A woman. Long dark hair. It was Claire. She stepped out a few minutes later in workout gear, headphones in, and locked the front door behind her. I slid down in my seat, heart racing. She didn't see me. She started jogging down the sidewalk, totally relaxed. Like she lived there. Like it was her house. When she was gone, I walked up to the door and tried the key. It worked. I don't know what I expected, an empty place, a rental they were flipping, some secret business project maybe. But the second I stepped inside, I knew. This wasn't some temporary investment. This was a home. Clean, lived in, fully furnished. A leather couch. Family photos on the wall, photos of Matt and Claire, smiling next to each other at what looked like a housewarming party. A stack of mail on the kitchen counter with both their names on it. And worst of all, 2 coffee mugs on the sink, one with lipstick on the rim. A pair of slippers by the staircase. His slippers. The ones he used to wear at our apartment, but had mysteriously lost. I didn't touch anything. I couldn't. It felt like stepping into a version of his life I was never meant to see. I backed out of the house slowly, locked the door behind me, and walked to my car with shaky legs, because now I knew. This wasn't a storage unit. This wasn't a joke. Matt and Claire were hiding something, and it was bigger than I ever imagined. And I had just unlocked the door to it. I drove home in a fog. My hands were on the wheel, but my mind was stuck in that living room. In the framed pictures. In the matching slippers. In the mugs that confirmed a shared, hidden life. When I got home, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat on the edge of the bed for a long time and stared at nothing. Matt was still at work. I knew I had a few hours. And suddenly, I wanted answers. Not from him, from the paper. If he bought a house with his sister, there had to be records. Something public. I just needed to find it. I started digging. County assessor's website. Public property records. It took a bit, but eventually, I found it. The house was in both of their names. Matthew R. and Claire L. Joint ownership. Mortgage co-signed. Purchased almost a year ago. An entire year. While I was making Pinterest boards for future dream homes, he already had one. While we were budgeting for new appliances, he was making mortgage payments on a house I'd never set foot in. I leaned back in my chair, heart pounding. None of this made sense. Why hide it? Why keep it a secret? Unless, it wasn't a secret from everyone. I called my best friend, Liv. She picked up on the second ring, and I asked her point blank, had Matt ever mentioned buying property? She was quiet for a second. Then said, wait, you didn't know? Apparently, Matt had brought it up once. Casual. Said he and Claire were thinking about buying something together. A duplex, maybe. He said it was just an idea. This was over a year ago. Liv never mentioned it because she assumed I already knew. And then she told me something else. Claire used to date someone named Adrian. A guy Liv vaguely knew through mutual friends. They broke up about 2 years ago, but the split was messy. Liv didn't know the details. Only that Claire completely cut ties with everyone after that, including Adrian's sister, who had been her best friend. I remembered Claire's coldness. How she never wanted to be around me. How Matt always said she was just busy or not social. Now I wondered if it was something else entirely. That night, Matt came home like nothing was wrong. Gave me a kiss on the cheek, asked if I wanted Thai or sushi. I stared at him, trying to picture the version of him that lived in that house. The one who took off his slippers, drank coffee, and laughed with Claire in their perfectly curated little secret life. I told him I wasn't hungry. He shrugged and went to shower. When I heard the water running, I picked up his keys from the counter. The ones he always guarded. And for the first time ever, I noticed one was missing. The key to our place. It wasn't on the ring. The missing key haunted me. I stared at his keyring for a full minute, turning it over in my hand like I'd somehow missed it. But no, it was gone. The spare to our apartment. The one I watched him toss onto the hook every day after work. Always the same sound. Always the same pattern. Now it wasn't there. I thought about the other house. About the fact that he wasn't just helping Claire. He was living another life. I didn't say anything that night. I couldn't. I needed more. The next morning, I called in sick again. I was running on autopilot now. Coffee, shower, throw on a hoodie. Then I grabbed the house key I'd stolen and drove straight back to the other house. This time, I brought gloves. And my phone. I told myself I wasn't breaking in. I had a key. But as I stepped back into that quiet, too perfect kitchen, it felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. I took pictures. The fridge magnets. The shoes lined up in the mudroom, 2 pairs of his, 3 of hers. A bulletin board with pinned notes and shopping lists. And then something that made me stop cold. A holiday card. Taped near the calendar. From Matt and Claire. No mention of siblings. No inside jokes. No from our weird sibling duo like I expected. Just happy holidays from Matt and Claire. A generic winter photo background. No pets. No family. Just the 2 of them standing close together. Matching sweaters. Smiling. Couple level cozy. My stomach turned. I wandered upstairs, cautiously, every creak of the floor making my pulse race. The bedroom was simple, beige walls, shared closet. But only one nightstand. Hers. The second side of the bed didn't even have a lamp. That's when I heard it. A thud. From downstairs. I froze. My chest locked. Someone was here. I crept to the stairway, leaned over, and saw a woman. Not Claire. Someone older. Maybe mid-40s, short hair, professional looking. She was holding a file in one hand and had just placed a package on the table by the door. I stayed completely still, praying she hadn't seen me. Then she called out, "Claire? You left your documents again, want me to put them in the office?" She walked toward the back of the house, still talking to herself, completely at ease. And then I made the stupidest decision possible. I walked down the stairs and said, "Hey." I think she stepped out. The woman looked up, startled, but not suspicious. She smiled. "Oh. You must be her partner's friend." "I'm Carol, Claire's agent." "Agent?" I played along. Said, "Yeah, I just needed to grab something for Matt." And then she said it. "Oh, that husband of hers, he forgets everything. I swear, if Claire didn't handle the paperwork, he'd lose the deed to the house." My brain went blank. Husband. Deed. Carol handed me the envelope and waved me off with a joke about married people being hopeless. I walked out of that house like I was sleepwalking. Because now I wasn't just dealing with a secret house or a shady sister. Now, someone out there thought Matt and Claire were married. And not one part of that sounded like a joke. I didn't drive home right away. I sat in my car outside that house for a solid 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My thoughts were racing, flipping between denial and dread. There was no way. No way. She said husband. That woman, Carol, Claire's agent, wasn't guessing. She didn't say boyfriend or partner or even roommate. She said husband. Like it was fact. Like it was old news. I couldn't breathe. I opened the envelope she handed me. Shaking hands, sweaty palms. It was just boring paperwork, nothing juicy. Some utility bills. Something about homeowner insurance. But then I saw it. The name on the policy, Claire Langston and Matthew Langston. Langston. Claire's last name. Not Matt's. Matt's last name is Daniels. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. There's no way they're legally married. Not unless Matt changed his name. Not unless he. And then I stopped. Because that would explain everything. The missing key. The holiday card. The house deed with their names together. The weird jokes. The agent calling him her husband. The lack of affection in our relationship lately. The way he kept brushing off my suggestions about buying a place together. Not the right time. Interest rates are too high. Let's just focus on saving. He wasn't avoiding commitment. He was already committed. And I think I'm the other woman. It hit me so hard I actually gagged, right there in my car. Because suddenly, I remembered something else. Last year, when Matt's driver's license had gone missing, he didn't get a replacement at the DMV. He said he already had a passport and didn't need to bother. At the time, I didn't question it. Now I think he didn't want a fresh document floating around. Something with the wrong name. Or the wrong address. I started shaking. I needed confirmation. Real confirmation. Not just clues and agents and weird behavior. I needed the truth. So I opened up a new tab on my phone and typed the words I never thought I'd search. Matthew Langston marriage license. And what popped up? An archived county record from almost 6 years ago. Filed under Claire Langston and Matthew Langston. A wedding license. Issued. Signed. Recorded. I stared at the screen like it might start glitching. 6 years. Before I even met him. He married Claire 6 years ago. And never once said a word. 6 years. I kept whispering it to myself over and over, like maybe repetition would make it stop meaning what it meant. 6 years. He married her 6 years ago. And for the past 4, he's been living with me. Dating me. Sleeping next to me. Laughing, cooking, talking about our future. All while married to someone else, to his sister. Except, no. That was the lie. She's not his sister. She never was. That whole time I thought Claire was just cold and distant. I chalked it up to her being antisocial, private, maybe even a little jealous of Matt giving someone else attention. But now I realize that distance wasn't apathy, it was tension. Because I was the intruder. I was the side story. I was the secret. The realization hit like a knife in my stomach. I stood up in my apartment, our apartment, and every photo on the wall suddenly looked like a joke. I had decorated this space thinking it was our home. Every stupid candle and throw pillow and piece of wall art felt like a prop in a play I didn't know I was in. I walked straight to the drawer where Matt kept all our documents. Tax stuff. Apartment lease. Even his health insurance papers. I pulled everything out and laid it on the floor. Piece by piece, I started scanning for his name. His signature. And suddenly, something I never noticed before jumped out. On our apartment lease, under legal name, it didn't say Matthew Daniels. It said Matthew L. Just the initial. I never questioned it. I assumed it stood for Lee, or Levi, or some middle name nonsense. But now I knew. It stood for Langston. He signed our lease with her last name, with the legal name tied to his real life, his actual marriage. I started hyperventilating. I couldn't even cry anymore. My body was done with tears. All I felt now was heat, fury. I didn't know what kind of relationship Matt and Claire had, but I knew it wasn't normal. Whatever it was, it had been deliberately hidden, structured, controlled. And I was the fool living in the middle of it. That night, I didn't sleep. I packed a bag. Just essentials. One change of clothes. My passport. A copy of my lease. My laptop. A burner notebook. Because I wasn't just leaving. I was going to find out what kind of monster I had actually been dating. I just didn't know yet how far it would go. By the time the sun came up, I wasn't even tired. Just wired. Hollow. A little manic, probably. I'd been with a man for 4 years who built our life on quicksand, and I hadn't seen it until it started to swallow me. And now I had proof, real, documented proof, that Matt wasn't who he said he was. He wasn't single. He wasn't Matthew Daniels. He was Matthew Langston. Married. 6 years. To a woman he introduced as his sister. And he was on his way home from work. I had a choice, run now and vanish, or face him. I chose to face him. I wanted to see his face when the truth hit. I wanted to watch the lie crumble. So when he walked through the door, casual as ever, holding a plastic bag with Chinese takeout, I sat perfectly still at the kitchen table. The lease in one hand. My phone open to the marriage license in the other. He set the bag down, looked at me, and smiled. And I said one sentence. I know who you are. He didn't even blink. Didn't ask what I meant. Didn't stammer or laugh or pretend confusion. He just stared at me for a moment. And then he sat down across the table. Like he'd been expecting this. Like the whole game had finally come to an end. I held the phone up. This is you. This is her. You're married. Still, no flinch. He took a breath. Quiet. Calm. And then, in a voice so steady it made my skin crawl, he said. I was going to tell you eventually. Eventually. For years. For years of toothbrushes and road trips and Christmas gifts and someday let's get a dog. And this man had been thinking eventually. I asked him what Claire was to him. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned back in the chair and just watched me, studying me. Finally, he said, it's not what you think. I asked him if they were in love. He shook his head. Then I asked if they were in it for the money. If this was some kind of green card scam or legal loophole or real estate hustle. He smiled, just a little. And that was the moment I knew. There wasn't going to be a straight answer. Because he'd spent so long building this lie, even he didn't know where the truth ended anymore. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at him like he was a stranger who had wandered into my life and borrowed a face I used to love. I was going to tell you eventually. That phrase haunted me. It was the kind of thing you say when you forget to take the trash out, not when you've been hiding a wife. So I asked again. Cold. Quiet. Why? Why lie? Why keep me around? And Matt, this man I thought I knew, just shrugged. Shrugged. Like the weight of 4 years meant nothing to him. Like I was asking why he ordered lo mein instead of orange chicken. He said Claire and him needed the arrangement to look convincing. That was the word he used. Arrangement. He said it had to do with money. Family estate issues. Tax breaks. Inheritance politics. His tone was clinical, like a lawyer reciting a clause in a contract. But nothing added up. They bought a house. They sent holiday cards. Her real estate agent thought they were married. They lived like a couple, still lived like one. There was no arrangement that explained that. And something inside me snapped. I stood up, walked straight to his backpack, he always dumped it by the door, and pulled out his laptop. He didn't try to stop me. Maybe because he thought I'd find nothing. Maybe because part of him wanted to get caught. I opened it. No password change. His browser tabs were still open. One of them was a private email account I'd never seen before. Not Gmail. Something encrypted looking. I clicked into it. What I saw made my stomach turn. There were emails. Dozens. Stretching back years. Some were between him and Claire, talking in a strange mix of code and casual planning, renovations, bank transfers, cover stories, dates when they'd be apart. Others were to someone else. A woman. Not Claire. Not me. A third name. E. And those emails weren't formal. They were intimate. Things like can't wait to get away with you again. Or I told her I had a work trip next week, so I'm clear. Dates lined up. Trips I thought were business. Nights he came home late. And then I saw one attachment. A scanned application for a joint bank account. Matt and E, co-owners. I clicked through his downloads folder and found something that chilled me even more. An Excel spreadsheet, color-coded. It was a schedule. 3 tabs. One titled Apt, one titled House, one titled E. He'd been rotating us. Days with me. Nights at the house. Weekends with her. It was all tracked, like some twisted life planner. I felt like I was going to throw up. This wasn't a love triangle. This was a project. We were projects. Carefully managed lies, all layered to keep him at the center of some fabricated universe. He'd been living 3 lives. And now? Now I was done being one of them. When I looked up from the screen, Matt was still sitting at the table like nothing was happening. Legs crossed, hands folded, watching me. Waiting. I think he thought I'd cry. Maybe scream. Maybe ask him how he could do this. Instead, I told him the truth. I said, I found everything. I know about her. I know about E. I know about the schedule. You really tracked us like calendar events? For the first time since he walked in, something cracked in his face. His jaw twitched. Not guilt, frustration. Like I'd just skipped ahead in a movie he wanted to control. He asked me how much I'd seen. I told him enough. I expected him to beg, to backpedal. He didn't. Instead, he said, I was never going to hurt anyone. Like that meant something. Like 3 lives spent wrapped around a lie wasn't hurt. He said I wasn't supposed to find out yet. That it was temporary. That he was handling it. I asked him what, exactly, he thought he was handling. Because the way I saw it, he was married to one woman, dating another, and sneaking off with a third. I asked him which one he loved. Which one he saw a future with. And this man, this imposter, had the audacity to say, all of you. I actually laughed. I laughed so hard it sounded like something was breaking in me. He didn't move. So I told him I wanted him out. That minute. I didn't care where he went. Claire's house. E's apartment. Hell, the sidewalk. But he was leaving. Tonight. That's when he stood up, slowly, and said, you're making a mistake. I asked him if that was a threat. He shook his head, almost sad. And then he said something I'll never forget. You don't know who Claire really is. Or why we started this. Started what? This network of lives? This psychotic triangle of manipulation? But he didn't explain. He walked to the door, grabbed his backpack, and turned back once, eyes flat, face unreadable. I'm not the only one who lied. And then he left. I locked the door behind him. And for the first time in 4 years, I was alone. But what he said about Claire kept echoing in my mind. Because if he was lying, and E was real, and I was just one corner of some triangle, then what was Claire? And what the hell had I just uncovered? I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room with every light on, staring at the door like Matt might come back and finish whatever game he was playing. But he didn't. Instead, the silence dragged on for hours. And in that silence, the one thing I couldn't stop thinking about was what he said before he left. You don't know who Claire really is. The next day, I made one more decision I never thought I'd have to make. I drove back to the house. Not to catch Matt. Not to spy. But to talk to Claire. The woman I thought was his sister. The woman whose name was on a marriage license. The one who might have been the architect of this entire twisted reality. I didn't text. I didn't call. I just showed up. When she opened the door and saw me standing there, she didn't look surprised. She looked tired. Like she'd been waiting for this. I didn't even have to say anything. She stepped aside and let me in. We sat on opposite ends of the same couch I'd seen in the framed photos. I looked around the house, really looked, and noticed something I missed before. There were no pictures of Matt and Claire recently. Nothing beyond that holiday card. No clothes in the upstairs closet that clearly belonged to him. No toiletries in the bathroom. It looked like a stage set. And that's exactly what it was. Claire poured us both a glass of water. Then she told me everything. She and Matt had been married 6 years ago. But it wasn't for love. It was for protection. Matt had been involved in a serious legal mess with someone named E, short for Elena. She had accused him of manipulating her emotionally and financially. There were threats of lawsuits, claims of fraud. Claire, his ex-girlfriend from college, stepped in to help. Yes, ex-girlfriend. Not sister. Not current wife. Not lover. She offered a way out. A legal marriage to shift assets and stall litigation. It wasn't a scheme, it was a desperate move to buy time and bury a scandal that could have ruined both of them. At first, it was supposed to be a 6-month cover. But things got complicated. Elena didn't go away. Matt started another relationship with me. Claire told him to come clean, but he didn't. He liked having it both ways. A fake marriage to shield him. A real girlfriend to ground him. Then, somewhere along the line, he met Elena again. Started seeing her behind both of our backs. Claire didn't know until recently. That's when she started pulling away. She moved her things out. She told him she wanted to dissolve the marriage and be done with all of it. He refused. She showed me the papers. The divorce she filed months ago, unanswered. Her name was still tied to his debt. Her credit, still linked to his. She looked at me and said, "I'm not proud of what I did. But I never wanted to hurt you." And I believed her. She was calm, steady, sad in a way that felt real. Then she handed me a USB drive. Said I should keep it. It had copies of everything, emails, documents, messages between Matt and Elena. Evidence she collected in case things ever went south. Claire wasn't the villain. She was just the only one smart enough to build an escape plan. I thanked her and left. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've moved out. I'm staying with friends, rebuilding my life one step at a time. Matt tried reaching out twice. I blocked him. The USB drive? I didn't open it. I gave it to a lawyer instead. Because I don't want revenge. I want distance. I want peace. And most of all, I want to trust myself again. Because the scariest part of this whole story wasn't Matt's lies, or Claire's fake marriage, or even Elena's reappearance. It was how easily I believed it all. How I mistook a network of secrets for a life worth living. But now I see everything. And I walk away free.